Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy, Atypical Security Guard. Today, we're going to be talking about a very controversial topic in the security guard industry, and that is utilizing handcuffs. Now, I have talked about utilizing mechanical restraints on here a couple of different times, and I've often talked about the reasons why security guards or security officers, however you choose to be referred to, why they should not utilize handcuffs. I've given so many examples of why it is not a prudent practice, why there are so many nuances and ambiguity around doing so and how it can get officers jammed up. But I had a conversation with an officer yesterday and he said, listen, under what circumstances would you use handcuffs? Is there anything that would cause you to use handcuffs? Clearly you have them. Why would you have them on your uniform if you don't believe in using them? Why would you have them on your person? Why would you carry them if you're not going to use them? And it got me thinking, what are the situations that would lead to me utilizing handcuffs? And I came up with my top 3 reasons. So today we're going to be talking about now this is just me personally, all right, my top 3 reasons that would lead to me utilizing or employing handcuffs. So let's get right to it. Number 3 is going to be defense of a third party in a felony situation. Now, security guards are able to operate under citizens arrest powers. There are situations where you have security guards with special police arresting authority in certain circumstances, certain jurisdictions, but in a general sense, most security officers are operating under the same citizens arrest powers and citizen arrest authority as anybody else. You are able to detain and arrest for any crime that is committed in your presence. And again, this is a generalization. I understand that. But for the most part, if you are going to detain someone, if you're going to arrest someone, it needs to be a crime, in my opinion, that raises to the level of a felony. Anything short of that, you are putting yourself in so much liability because unlike police officers, we have no immunity in terms of what happens when we apply those handcuffs or when we take someone into that situation. Even if we're justified, we don't have that immunity from any sort of prosecution civilly, and then anything that might come of that in terms of breaking the law. So you have to be very, very careful. So for me personally, I would only want to place handcuffs on somebody if it was in defense of a third party of a felony nature. What would that be? For me, working in a retail establishment, that is stopping an armed robbery. That would be intervening and stopping an aggravated assault. A great example, about a year ago, we had a guy that came into one of our stores and I heard someone screaming from one of the aisles. When I got over there, I found a person who was kind of cowering down. And I said, hey, what happened? He goes, this guy came around. He asked me if I was so-and-so. I told him no. He continued to yell at me and claim that I was this person that I'm not. And he pulled a gun out. He pointed it at me. Now, that's aggravated assault. This person ran out of the store, more than likely a homeless person, a person dealing with mental illness, just crazy, potentially high. He pulls a firearm on an unsuspecting person, and to this person's story, points the firearm in his direction and then runs out of the store. So that is aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. If I would have seen that, I would have drawn my firearm. I would have placed this person under arrest and I would have handcuffed him. So in those situations, a situation where someone is committing a felony act on myself or a third party, I would employ handcuffs. Another situation would be at the directive of a law enforcement officer. We've talked about, would you as a security guard get involved if a police officer or a law enforcement officer in the commission of his duties asks you to help out? Now, in some states, you don't have a choice. You know, if an officer directs you to do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, you have to get involved. Otherwise, you can be held criminally responsible for that. In some other states, the security guards have no duty to act. Now, we had a situation, I think it was last year, where we had a police department employee. Well, I think it was a cop, right? I think a cop was initiating a traffic stop. and the person pulled away and actually ran over the police officer. Okay. The fleeing suspect stops in front of our store and is tracked to the location where I'm working and runs into this retail establishment. He and his girlfriend run in, they take off their clothing, they go and grab other items of clothing, and they're trying to hide out in the store. When the police officers enter into the store and they see me and the other security guard, they give us the description of the two people that they're looking for, and they tell us to fan out and to yell if we find them. Everybody fans out into the store and they're looking for these subjects. Now, in that situation, under the directive of the police officers, if I would have found that subject, made a positive identification on those two people or that one subject, I would have stopped that person and I would have handcuffed them in that situation under the directive of the police officer. Now, if you're in a situation where, another officer comes in and takes possession, authority and possession over a person that you guys have detained under, say, a loss prevention stop, and in the commission of him taking that person out, that person starts to fight, they get into an altercation, that officer is telling you to help or asking you to help, and you have the ability to handcuff and control that person, that would be another situation where at the directive or in the facilitation of helping that police officer, I would feel comfortable handcuffing. The number one thing would be, and I think this is very important, would be officer involved incidents. Now, what do I mean by that? If you utilize one of your less than lethal tools, what would that be? Your baton, your taser, or if you use a lethal item, which would be your firearm, in a situation where I'm involved in an incident where I incapacitate the subject, something that they have done has risen to the level of me having to utilize one of my tools in a situation where this person is now incapacitated. I would then employ handcuffs. I would handcuff that person. I would affect that detainment and then contact law enforcement. I think in a situation where you utilize any of those items and you have a person that is now incapacitated, you have to do your due diligence, handcuff that person, and put them in a situation where now you're turning them over to the police. Or if they have a weapon, they don't have access to that weapon and can't get to that weapon, regardless of the situation, especially in terms of a officer involved shooting. But in my personal opinion, utilizing handcuffs would be very, very, very sparing situations before I would feel comfortable doing that. So yes, I carry handcuffs. Yes, I have them on my person. Yes, I am trained and certified to do so, but I would only use those in these three circumstances for the most part. But again, I ask all of you guys, what are your thoughts on this? What are the situations that you feel not only justified, but comfortable in utilizing your handcuffs as a security guard or a security officer? This is where I think the debate is something that we have to have. I want to know what you guys think. Put your comments down below and let's start this conversation, because I think that this is one of those topics that we have to talk about. So many officers are putting themselves in situations where they're utilizing handcuffs way too often, and sooner or later, somebody's going to get jammed up. All right. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree, have thoughts? Drop them below. All right. Be great.